Cold, cold, cold. That is what that arrow is pointing to. And cold might be coming towards the United States within the first couple of weeks of January. It's kind of warmed up a little bit. It's going to get cold again. There's also the potential for a couple of winter disturbances. There's been some talk of a winter storm around the 3rd through the 5th. I'll tell you if that's overhyped, underhyped, and I'll just tell you what I think is going to happen with that. So I'm going to give you my long-term forecast in this episode of State of the Weather Address through January 13th. I'm just going to go over the models and stuff like that. I'm going to show you how to plot fronts on these secret weather model maps that the meteorologists apparently hide. Okay, but this is all free, and I'm going to show you a couple of cool weather model websites that you can use. They have beautiful graphics, and there's two of them in particular that are very nice. So we're going to go over those, and I'm going to show you the long-term forecast. And that being said, this is not going to be hypey, dumbed down stuff. This is just going to be raw, honest, real meteorological data, and you can watch me as I break it down. So that being said, let's crack into this episode of State of the Weather Address. Alright, so you've made it on the other side of this good old video here, the side where we do the weather here. And I thought I'd break this down. Right now I'm going to talk about the temperatures. We're going to go over the broad scale air masses that could affect the United States or North America within the next couple of weeks. And then after that I'm going to talk about the fronts and the precipitation and the snowfall accumulations and all that. But that being said, if you are a weather enthusiast, I invite you to check out my old book here. I put it together called the Winter Weather Super Forecasting Playbook. And there's cheat sheet guides and all of that stuff that can help you with winter forecasting. It can supercharge your forecasting skills. And you can use that book along this video. That's why I have it right here. You can actually get it in the link in the description. Just enter your email. Hey, I'll send it off. That's only if you want it. You can use this book while we go over this forecasting stuff. Alrighty, so a really cool model resource guide for checking out models is tropicaltidbits.com. This is a very nice place. It's got nice graphics. And contrary to what it says, tropical, you can actually view all sorts of model data on here. Okay, there's just really everything. So what I'm going to do first is I've clicked on Upper Dynamics 500 millibar height anomaly, and I'm checking out North America here in the regions. Okay, and I'm going to go over the jet stream. Right now, this is actually December 28th now, December 29th. There's a little bit of warm weather still in the United States, kind of flat and zonal. Okay, there's nothing major in the United States, but there was a lot of warm temperatures out here. There's actually 10 to 15 degrees above average towards Christmas Day. There's tornadoes in Kansas and maybe even southern Nebraska, a bunch of wind and thunderstorms in there. Unprecedented for this time of year, at least that far north. And that being said, this is the area you're going to want to watch here. Watch as we go into early January. Okay, this all these little blobs are circulating around the poles. Okay, this is warm and cool air. The cold is the blue and the warm is the red. Now, right around early January, what happens is we get some troughing out west. Okay, little disturbances. Nothing overly organized because you have multiple pieces. You'd like to see it all in one. Okay, see these little things closing off? These are little low pressure systems. You'd like to see just one big giant one, but there's kind of three little areas here, and that might actually prevent some big snowstorms. But anyway, that begins to strengthen, as you can see here. It begins to strengthen here. So we're going to have some disturbance that moves through the western United States, and then that kind of flattens out. Okay, so most of the precipitation stuff is going to be out here. This kind of flattens out as it moves eastward. You'd like to see that dig and kind of swing out into the northeastern United States, the central United States, for a big snowstorm in the central and eastern United States. But that flattens out, and it's just a bunch of cold air. Okay, just a bunch of cold air. And this is kind of the blueprint setup for just a big crashing Arctic cold front and maybe some snow along it. So that being said, let's go check out the precipitation and the fronts here. Alrighty, this website is really nice for looking at weather models. This is pivotalweather.com, and I'm going to look at the GFS. This is the American Computer Model. And we're looking at precipitation types and the rate of precipitation, okay? This is right now, the 29th, and right now we got a nice little snow system in the northeastern United States. Nothing crazy, some lake effect snow, though, moving southeastward. And so some snow happening out there with rain to the south. Now, these lines right here, you can actually find fronts and low pressure system with these lines. These black lines are isobars. They're pressure lines, okay? So the higher the number, the higher the pressure. So 1034 is higher than 1032. So this is going to be a high pressure in the middle of that, right? The lower the number is going to be the lower the pressure. So this is 996. This thing's 998. There's going to be a low pressure right there, okay? Low pressure. The wind flow is just like that. It's counterclockwise. High pressure, it's the opposite. It's clockwise. Okay, so your surface winds are going to look like that. Okay, and so there's a little disturbance in the northeastern United States. Here's your low pressure system right here. So how can we find the fronts? Well, you see these little red lines and blue lines? That's thickness. That's the average temperature in the atmosphere from the surface to maybe the mid levels of the atmosphere, kind of towards the jet stream. That is the average temperature. Anywhere along this 540 line you see here is 32 degrees. So anything north of that, or anything with these, deeper into these blue lines, that's going to be below freezing. So that's why you have snow up there. Anything above the 540 line is going to typically be rain, okay, on average, because it's the average temperature. Now we can find warm fronts and cold fronts with these thickness lines, and the cold fronts, remember, cold fronts are typically behind low pressure systems, and it's usually found at the leading edge of a gradient of these thickness lines. And a gradient is essentially, packing. See how they're all packed together right here? They're less packed together up here. They're less packed together down there. So the front is going to be right at the leading edge of this packing, of this gradient. Okay? So that's where we're going to find our cold front. So I'm going to plot that right there. It's going to kind of come out like that. You also can find fronts where you have pressure troughs. And troughs are essentially little dips in the pressure. See how there's a little dip right here in this the isobars? And I'll show you here. We'll take that out. There's a little bit of a dip, so there's probably going to be a front right in there. Okay, so you can actually add those two factors together. Hey, you got a little pressure trough, you got some thickness. There's probably going to be a cold front right there. Okay, and it's also found south and west of that low pressure system, and there's precipitation right along it. So there's a good confidence that there's a cold front there. Then their warm front is going to be the exact same thing. It's going to be right at the leading edge of these gradients. And you can see there's kind of a gradient right there. And the warm fronts are typically on the eastern side of the low pressure system. And there's a little bit of a pressure trough kind of right here-ish. Not much. I guess you could argue maybe there's one right here. But usually there's precipitation north of that warm front as well. Okay. So there's probably a warm front somewhere kind of in this area. Yeah, probably somewhere in that area. It's not overly, it's more of a cold front setup, but it's probably somewhere kind of in this area right here. Okay, so that being said, we can use that, what I just told you, and we can kind of fast forward into the future here, and we can see if we got some big snowstorms coming towards the United States. This is towards New Year's Eve. There's going to be a clipper system. These clipper systems roll out of Canada. They're right there. There's your little clipper system. And there's going to be some snow, maybe some lake effect snow that tracks into the northeastern United States. You got some rain out here. We'll fast forward this. And here's the big show. Okay. You got this big wave that kind of comes through here into the northeastern United States, but it's predominantly rain. Okay. But behind that, we've got a nice cold front moving through. And you kind of have a low pressure system here, but there is a nice cold front that begins to move through, and it brings cold, snowy weather behind it. Some very cold weather. Now it's very flat, okay? It's very flat. What you would like to see is a lot of wrapping, okay? Kind of like these low pressure systems out here. This isn't really that great of an example either, but you'd like to see them wrap, and I'll show you a kind of an image of that in a second, but it's very linear. Okay, and so there's just gonna be kind of snow along and behind this this front. So with an organized snowstorm, a legit snowstorm, you're gonna want a certain kind of look to it. Okay, and this is our low pressure system right here. You're gonna want a nice little warm front right out here, kind of like that, for a a snowstorm, and then behind it you want a cold front, and you want these air masses to essentially. I've lost my mouse. It's too dark here. Hold on a second. Okay. You want your air masses to be really aggressive on both sides. Okay, the warm air is moving north aggressively, and the cold air is moving south, southeast or whatever aggressively, and that creates spin. Okay, around this low pressure system, and when you get that, you'll get precipitation that kind of looks like this. It'll kind of have a comma head appearance. So you'll get precipitation that fires along that cold front, and it'll start firing along that warm front, and you'll get like maybe an occlusion behind it, and you'll get a lot of precipitation behind it. So with classic snowstorms, you kind of want those comma head looks to them. Now that's a lot different than what we have going on right now around January 3rd. January 3rd, you just have this big progressive cold front. Okay, it's just there's not a lot of warm air. There's warm air ahead of it, but it's kind of like zonal. It's flat. It's not really, there's not really good surge north for a decent warm front. So it's just a big old cold front. Now there is some moisture, along that cold front that we're talking about, but it's really weak and it's kind of skinny and narrow. There's not a lot of warm push to it. You want that warm push that comes out of the Gulf of Mexico. Don't really have it. It's just kind of flat looking. So you'll get some snow along that cold front, but it's not a classic snowstorm. You might get, usually with these at max, you can get 4 to 6 inches, but a lot of the time it's 3 inches or less, which I think might be the case. So that's just kind of an example of why I don't think that snowstorm on the 3rd through the 5th is going to be overly great. It's because of the cold air, blast attack, the Arctic attack. So that being said, our low pressure system, the first wave that kind of moves out is right there. There's probably a warm front of sorts kind of in this area right here, okay? And then our cold front kind of extends backwards, kind of in this wannabe troughiness, kind of along that gradient here. And then maybe we get some, there's another low pressure system out here. Maybe there's kind of a warm front right there. And then there's a lot of cold air behind that as well, kind of in this area. Okay, so, but this thing's just going to turn into a big old cold front. This thing's not very organized. You'd like to see a stronger surge of warm air right here, and you're not getting that. This cold front's too progressive. It's overpowering. And because you're not getting that warm, moist air out of the Gulf to feed into the system, get it kind of spinning, you're not going to get a big comma head snowstorm. You're just going to get this linear stuff along and behind that cold front. And so I'm thinking this is overhyped, if there was any hype for this January 3rd through 5th system. But that could change. It could always back off. But I think a lot of the models have been showing very good consistency in this look. Okay. But if anything, we maybe could see some snow somewhere in this area, maybe a few inches at most. But we'll have to watch that. But that really begins to move through, and cold weather throughout much of the United States. Remember that 540 line is that 32-degree line on average. That's encompassing much of the United States towards the 6th of January. And it's really flat looking, okay? You don't really get big storm systems when it's flat like this. Okay, the lines, you'd like to see, again, that dip, kind of this wavy pattern. You're not really getting that. So we'll go fast forward. We'll fast forward towards the 8th and the 10th. It starts to pick up again a little bit. There's a little disturbance in the northeastern United States, but this is getting really far out. It looks like another Arctic blast again. Kind of similar, maybe a little more organized. You got a nice low pressure system here around the 10th of January. But that's getting really far out. Anything past 240 hours on the models, it's kind of like looking through a crystal ball, really. But it's fun nonetheless. You see that you got a nice low pressure system up there and another one down there. But we'll have to watch that. It looks like it could become a little bit more active after the 8th of January, but until then, there's going to be a nice Arctic blast. I just wanted to show you the Canadian model, kind of a similar situation. There's a little bit more rain that blows out ahead of it, but overall, you can see that cold, really progressive cold air behind it, a little bit of snow along that front and behind it. That thing lifts out, and that cold front just moves on south. It does. It's a little more aggressive with the cold air in the eastern United States and having a nice little system that moves through around the 6th, but that's getting a little bit far out. But it's worth watching. So, and a little bit of lake effect snow behind that. So that's what the Canadian shows. Actually, right at the last frame here, it looks like maybe a nice system moving in towards the 7th. So we'll have to watch around the 7th and 8th and beyond for some snowy weather here. This is our jet stream, and this is right now. There's that storm out in the northeastern United States, and when you see a really nice dip here, that's a good sign. And when they kind of close off like that, when you get little bubbles like that, that's a good sign of a snowstorm. And when they're kind of tilted negatively like that, so that's a good sign of an organized snowstorm. And you can see that happening. But watch as we get towards the 3rd and through the 5th here. Just kind of flat zonal flow. Now we get towards the 3rd and the 5th, and it's kind of flat. And you notice the little bubbles up here. There's a little bubble here. That's the northern, kind of northern branch, and that's kind of hogging up the energy from this, what could be a southern branch here. And it's just a lot of zonal flat flow, and it just kind of really progressive. You're just going to get a cold front, and little showers and rain along that front, maybe some rain out ahead of it. So it does not look like an overly impressive snowstorm pattern. It looks more like an Arctic outbreak, and that'll dig south. And as we get towards late month, maybe a little disturbance there, but that's very far out. So that's the jet stream. So I'm back at Tropical Tidbits, and this is the 850 millibar temperature anomaly. Okay, and this shows the anomaly means is it above or below average. The blues here are going to be below average. The reds are going to be above average, and so like this right here would be 2 degrees below average. Okay. So we got some warmer than average temperatures kind of in the southern United States. You got a cold plunge beginning to work its way into the northern central United States. But watch what happens here. You get some very warm conditions out ahead of that Arctic front I was talking about. Very warm temperatures, maybe 10 to 12, 14 degrees above average in the northeastern United States. Probably going to see some rain as well towards the 3rd of January. But right behind it, wow. Oh, wow, we got some very cold air behind that front. Potentially 20 degrees below average in some of these areas, okay? It's going to pack a very good punch in the Rockies and the central U.S. It begins to diffuse a little bit, okay? The energy of that jet just kind of weakens. It gets flat. However, it's still going to spread south, maybe as far south as Florida. But really, look at everything in the United States and even Canada here, below average temperatures. The Europeans very aggressive on this, and so there's going to be a lot of cold hanging around here. But, hey, maybe this will help set up the environment for some snowstorms later on in the month. So we'll see what happens here. And in terms of temperatures, we'll go back to pivotal weather. We'll go out towards the 3rd and the 5th when it gets cold here. And you can see a big body of cold air moves south, and it does for a while here. It's going to be lasting a few days. This right here, negative, that's below zero with that purple color right there, below zero, maybe negative 20, 30 degrees below zero. That blue shade, 32 degrees. It has 32 degrees encompass, moving down through much of the United States. So it could get very, very cold here. And northwesterly winds all around behind that. So very cold temperatures moving into the United States. So what do those good old snow accumulations look like? This is right now. We got an ongoing storm system in the northeastern United States. We'll fast forward, and you can see they could be dealing with, maybe over a foot in Maine, well over a foot in Maine, potentially. And then we got that second Clipper system moving through. You can see that streak right there. That's going to move through. That's going to impact the Great Lakes region around the 1st and 2nd here. And then we got the next system, and you can barely see it. It's kind of affecting this area right here. Now watch what happens as it moves south. You can see it moving south. It's kind of near Texas now. Boom, right there. You could actually be dealing with some accumulating snowfall as far south as potentially North Carolina, maybe even Texas as well, down to Texas, Alabama. We'll see on that one. But the models have been showing some very cold air extending all the way down south to the southernmost states, 32 degrees. So we'll see what happens. And a big old hole in the middle of the country. Don't know if that's going to happen, but yeah, we'll see what happens. Kind of was similar to that last Arctic outbreak. Wasn't a lot of snow with it, just kind of scooted down south. So we'll see what happens. So that being said, it is going to get cold. And so I'd get that back, put those shorts away and get back out the sweaters and all of that. And that being said, if you want more of these weather videos, more of these forecasting breakdowns and updates on these winter storms and cold weather coming in the future here, go ahead and subscribe. Click that big old subscribe button. I'll continue to make forecasting breakdowns, forecasting tutorials, so that you can supercharge your super forecasting skills. And that being said, if you want that winter weather super forecasting playbook I was talking about in the video, it's several pages. There's a bunch of cheat sheets, and you'll be able to forecast winter storms. It's like your little playbook guide. Just click the link in the description below. Hey, and I'll send it right off to you. Just I think you enter your email, and I'll just send the thing right off to you, and you can start forecasting away. And you can use that guide if you want when we make these videos. You can follow along and stuff. So it's kind of fun that way. So if you want that, go ahead, click the link in the description below. Also, I have one more question. What would you like to learn about? Go ahead and comment below. Just offer some tutorial ideas, and maybe I'll put together some tutorials and stuff on this channel based off the feedback here. So tell me a weather topic you'd like to learn about, or storm chasing or anything like that. Just tell me what you'd like to learn about. Comment below, and I'll look into making some little tutorials on that. And that being said, enjoy the cold weather, and we'll see you soon.